Eventually, the 2003 draft did come along, and the number 1 pick belonged to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And with LeBron being from Ohio, it was a match made in heaven. It worked out perfectly for both sides. LeBron got to stay close to home while the Cavs were in desperate need of a player with LeBron's talent, considering they were one of the worst teams in the league. Derrick Rose was another player who was fortunate to get drafted by his hometown team. In 2008, the Bulls only had a 1.7% chance to get the number 1 pick, but somehow they beat the odds and was more than happy to use that pick on the homegrown prodigy. When the New Orleans Pelicans was hit with the news that Anthony Davis no longer wanted to be a member of the team, it was tough. They didn't want to let their superstar go, but once AD officially requested a trade, there wasn't really anything they could do to change his mind. So eventually, they shipped him to Los Angeles. And when you lose a player of his caliber, it usually takes years to recover. But luckily for them, they didn't have to wait that long for another phenom. They bounced back instantly when they received the number 1 pick in the 2019 draft. Getting Zion Williamson definitely made it much easier to move on from Davis. Now, I'm not trying to imply that these were rigged or anything. I'll leave that to you guys in the comments. I just wanted to acknowledge how crazy it is that things happen to unfold like that. Throughout this season, things were looking great for AD as a member of the Lakers. They've been the number 1 seed in the West all year long. Even Zion, who took over for him in New Orleans, is living up to the hype and was on a little run to potentially make the playoffs until Rudy Gobert did this.
Seriously, what the fuck are you doing?
His actions, malintent or not, at least initiated the subsequent suspension of the NBA season, as he was the first player to be tested positive for that one thing that we really can't mention here. This instantly became breaking news everywhere, and then people began to realize that this whole situation eerily mirrored the plot of the movie Space Jam.
Listen, after meeting with team owners, I have decided that until we can guarantee the health and safety of our NBA players, there will be no more basketball this season.
But that's not even the creepiest similarity going on here. It gets even weirder. You see, the date was March 11th when the league decided to put a stop to the season. And guess what? When Space Jam came out on VHS, how about I just show you the commercial?
Stretched a little too thin. These guys have the cure, and now they're making house calls. Space Jam for sale on video March 11th.
Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne.
Man, that's some scary stuff right there. Also, if you do the math, you would see that this current hiatus and the release of Space Jam on VHS is exactly 23 years apart. Absolutely insane. For the past month or so, us diehard NBA fans have been suffering from the lack of games. And what's even more disappointing is we were well on our way to witnessing an incredible postseason and an even more epic finals. A Bucks-Lakers finals seemed like a foregone conclusion. That would have been a matchup that we've never seen before in the finals. Lately, it's just been the Warriors reaching the finals, so we needed something different. In fact, for quite some time now, it always feels like deja vu when it comes to the finals. I don't know if you noticed, but there's been a revenge theme going on recently. It feels like if a particular team loses to another particular team, they eventually meet up in the finals again within a short time for some payback. We saw the 2006 finals take place again in 2011, in which the better team lost both times. 2 chapters of the Lakers-Celtics rivalry were written within a 3-year span, each snagging a chip from the other. The Spurs, who choked in 2013, only had to wait a year to get him back. And the Warriors, winning a title that they probably should have lost in 2015, ended up losing a title that they should have won a year later. Strange that it often seems to work out like that. But perhaps the most unusual finals trend that tends to reoccur year after year is Shaquille O'Neal's teammate coincidence. Amazingly, every NBA Finals since the year 1984, there has always been at least one player participating in the finals that at one point in time has been teammates with Shaq, Danny Green being the most recent. We're not sure if that unprecedented streak will continue, but nonetheless, very impressive. When Shaq was a member of the Orlando Magic, he kept coming up short in the playoffs, and he wanted a title bad, so he took his talents to Hollywood to pursue that goal. Sounds familiar, right? Well, that's exactly what Dwight Howard tried to do. He made a finals appearance with the Magic, just like Shaq, and then later on joined LA in an attempt to emulate the same success, but it was a complete mess instead. Now this next one is actually pretty remarkable. If you're a fan of basketball and video games, then chances are you have a huge stack of the NBA 2K games that you collected throughout the years. Now go through them real quick and tell me if they stood the test of time. No, I'm not talking about the game itself. What I mean by that is, look at the players featured on the cover. They aged like milk. You see, people began to notice that whenever a player is chosen to be on the cover, soon after, within like a year or so, that particular player changes teams. Let's start off with 2K14. LeBron was with Miami. Then, in the summer of 2014, he rejoins the Cleveland Cavaliers. 2K15, Kevin Durant with OKC, and we all know what happened next. 2K17, Paul George seemed like he was happy with the Pacers, but then had a sudden change of heart and wanted out of there, so OKC picked him up. 2K18, Kyrie featured in a Cavs jersey, but when he was traded to Boston, they had to act quick and remake the cover to a Celtics jersey. 2K18 again, but this one is the Canadian edition. DeMar, chosen to represent their version of the game, but he would soon be replaced by Kawhi. 2K19, LeBron was chosen to be on the cover of the 20th anniversary edition, and that news was announced during the 2018 finals, which resulted in some people freaking out because they knew about what happens when you're on the cover, and LeBron must have gave 2K a heads up because this time they played it safe by not showing a specific jersey in the picture. It all started off as just a random coincidence, but when something tends to happen over and over again, it then starts to look like it could be a curse. In this day and age, you better be careful what comes out of your mouth because you never know when it might come back to haunt you. Like in 2013, when Jimmy Butler was being interviewed, he was a member of the Chicago Bulls at the time, which meant he wasn't too fond of the Miami Heat, and he had no problem expressing it. Quote, "The one thing I'd never wear is a Miami Heat jersey," which made this hilarious when he eventually chose to sign with Miami many years later, kinda mimicking D Wade's path he had in his career. Both went to Marquette in college. Then, at one point in time, each played for the Bulls and Heat. But Jimmy chose to go there on his own free will, unlike Harry Giles, who wasn't so lucky. Giles was the 20th pick in the 2017 NBA draft, selected by Portland, but the Kings had his draft rights, so he was headed to Sacramento instead, which I'm sure it didn't really matter to him. Every player is content wherever they land. Well, maybe not in this case, because just a few years earlier in 2014, back when he was in high school, he tweeted something that made things pretty awkward once it was discovered. "Sacramento is the wackest city ever. Anybody want to take me to get some food? I'm starving." Then there was an immediate follow-up question. What if you get drafted there? And his response was, "I'll be the happiest, saddest dude in the world." Giles was understandably embarrassed by his old tweet and made sure to apologize to not only the franchise, but the entire city as well. Alright guys, make sure to comment down below if you know of any other NBA coincidences. Also, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.